with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning. With beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning. With beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning. With beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future.
Please, I'm sorry. Welcome to the Redevelopment Commission. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Sonia, could you please take a roll?
Commissioner Lack?
Here.
Commissioner Ambler is absent. Commissioner Josviak?
Here.
Commissioner Munt? Here. Mayor Bonta?
Here.
Commissioner Vasquez?
Here.
Did everyone have a chance to take a look at the minutes for October 10th? And is there a motion?
So move.
And second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have the payment of claims. Did everyone have a chance to look at the claims? Are there any questions?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have staff reports. Mr. Bowditch?
So I do have a number of items under under new business under old business and new business. I can go over those then. As far as staff reports, the Sandy McDaniel did facilitate the study session of the Redevelopment Commission. I apologize, I couldn't be there that night. I had a personal event that it needed to be taken care of that my wife scheduled me for without letting me know, and it was a family issue, so I took care of that. So I haven't had a chance and opportunity to speak with Sandy yet about that and how it went, but I'm sure that I will sit down with her shortly. I've tried to schedule a couple things. I'm not sure if Sandy's here to see. No, she's not. But I've tried a couple times, and she's been busy working on a couple projects to get those done. One other report to provide is that I did have a conversation with Evan Marsh and Matt Kaiser on the GIS contract and agreement for providing GIS, Geographical Information System, assistance to the Redevelopment Commission in the city as it applies to economic development and redevelopment. The agreements have been signed, and as far as the equipment questioned, I believe Matt and his staff, Joe, have met with Sandy on that, and everything should be taken care of, and they should be initiating that fairly soon to get started on putting together a GIS platform for the city. Other than that, when it's on the agenda, I will be more than happy to speak to the topics.
Sounds good. So we'll jump to the discussion on the update on the home TIF approval process.
So it comes back to me.
Indeed.
Thank you. So on the home TIFs, we have put together the residential development housing program in draft form, template form to get that ready. We have a request, data request into Lawton Development for the final information that we can include in the residential development. We have not received that to date. We've made several attempts to contact them and let them know via email and voice messages to get that information from them. Basically, what we need at this point is confirmation of the total number of units, the investment, and what the pro forma is for the project, because that all needs to be placed into the, I keep saying redevelopment, but it's a residential housing development program. And at that point, we can present a declaratory resolution before you. So that initiates the process. So we're in a holding pattern until we get the information from Lawton.
Gotcha. So we'll go to the new business with Bill Rathjen, discussion on real estate matters.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I have a couple items, or 3 items actually, for you tonight. The first one is a package of papers that I gave you copies, everybody to, of an offer we had submitted from our October meeting. We got a response on that offer, and they countered basically the dollars. They're okay with all the other terms. Discussed the fact that the property does have to appraise, 2 appraisals. Average of those 2 appraisals is the price that the city, is the maximum price the city can pay. He understands that and agrees to have this in the contract. So with that, I would recommend that we sign this LOI and move on to a purchase agreement for that parcel. So we will need a motion to do that, to accept that price.
I move that we approve the LOI.
Yeah, that we accept the counteroffer from the LOI. The letter of intent is what LOI stands for.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And just as a reminder, you approved the expenses for the appraisal at the October meeting. So once we get this signed, we're going to go right into that process. The second item is regarding 6051 Central Avenue. We will need a motion to resolve the environmental issues that we've encountered over the past 6-8 months or so that Tom has been working on. We've come up with a credit to the developer to offset about half of his environmental expenses that we've encountered on that lot. So I'll need a motion to cover the environmental issue at 6051 with a credit of $100,000 to be applied at closing.
Motion to approve? Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And my final item is a project that I've been talking with Dan about. Parcel B on the north side is the one parcel that we do not own up on the north side. We've talked about how to get control of that land. It's where the bridge is going to cross as well. So we come up with the idea that the city, or the RDC, needs to authorize the signing of an offer in the amount of $561,924 and to approve the cost of 2 appraisals not to exceed $5,000.
I would support the request.
This matches what we talked about at,
Yes.
I believe, the last meeting on the subject.
Yes.
What was the appraisal amount again?
I'm sorry,
What was the appraisal amount again?
5,000 not to exceed. $561,924. And the offer has already been written and submitted to Attorney Bernicki, and he has reviewed it.
All good.
Yeah, via email, I did do an approval, so again, there was no legal objection to the way the offer was written, so I also support.
I'll make a motion to approve the offer of 561,924. Do we need a second approval for the appraisal, or can it be all in one?
No, it can be one motion, yeah, it's fine.
Including approval of appraisals not to exceed $5,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that is all I have left. Have any questions for me?
Thank you so much, Bill.
You bet. Thank you.
We have discussion with Chief Candiano. It appears that he's not here. I'm not sure if, I could imagine that there could be things that happened. Mr. Bowditch, were you briefed on that at all? Or are you able to speak to the chief's request?
I can give a brief overview, but I don't know if it's necessary to have it done at this meeting. So, Chief Candiano came before and provided a request for additional funds to the police department. We reviewed those requests, and basically, from the perspective of identifying, he was to provide an overview of the request for the use of the funds granted to the police department from the Redevelopment Commission for fiscal year 2024. And if there are any funds that needed to be used from 2025's distribution, those funds would be used from the subsequent year. It was more in an update of the request to fulfill this year's amount of use of the funds, as well as completing the use and then identifying the use of the funds for next year. So, I mean, he went into long detail, but I'd rather have you hear it from him rather than me. But we can schedule that for the December meeting. Pardon? Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
I wasn't sure if that
Is-
could wait. Do you have a correspondence with him to confirm? I just would hate to table till the next meeting if there is some urgency.
So we've got a couple subscription invoices that may be timed.
And that is,
This is just basically asking for 11,623 and 36 cents moving from the 25
Correct.
budget
Yes.
or grant to 24, correct?
you're right.
Yeah, there's a little bit, but the overage should be stated on that memo, correct? Yes?
Yes, it's the $6,823.36.
Plus,
Right, that's what I had.
it's a total of 11,623 with all three of them.
Something I'll say is that anytime that RDC money has been legally, and appropriately, approved for the police department, our police department has well, not just outstanding, I think a perfect track record of
Thank you,
both
Tom.
handling it the right way.
It was a
I'd also add
subscription.
that they always have
Yeah,
left money
correct.
left over.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's to say
That's
that
a
this is
total
by
of
no
all three.
means,
Okay, good.
right.
I think she was thinking of
exactly,
one
it's
of
the
them.
math, but
But I think
there's
there are
really
sometimes
nothing at
things
all
that-
off
they
with the
were-
request itself.
They were. And I apologize, Mayor. And I appreciate Tom refreshing my memory, is that the total was $11,623.36. And they are for subscriptions, now, not subscriptions to a periodical, subscriptions for criminal activity and data from platforms that collect that information and provide it, make it available to the city's police department. And one of those subscriptions is a cost passed on by the state of Indiana. And I believe it's this Indiana State Police. So that's just an example. And when we had a conversation, the intent was to use the remaining funds from the $75,000 grant and to then adjust next year's grant request of $75,000 by the amount that would be necessary to cover the difference. So if there was if I would request that you entertain a motion to approve the subscriptions for the police department to be paid from this year's fiscal year budget of the Redevelopment Commission in the amount of $11,623.36, under the condition that it uses the remaining balance of their grant, and the balance left after that for the payment is applied to next year's grant amount.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, so now we get into periodicals, actually. Is that right? We have we have the discussion for the 2025 Chamber of Commerce Community Compass magazine fees.
So the Redevelopment Commission received the request for the 2025 year 2025 Chamber of Commerce Community Compass magazine. Those are the fees that are paid for for the publication of the Chamber of Commerce's for edition subscription that's sent out to all of the residents in the city of Portage. And it includes information from the Parks Department, from the Fire Department, from the Police Department, general activities of the city, any events that may be occurring, a message, usually a message from the mayor as the executive. If there's any information from the city council that can be included. It is the total of the magazine subscription came to, I want to say, and Sonia can correct me if I'm wrong, it was about $33,000 for the subscription. I would ask that the Redevelopment Commission take it under consideration at this time, only to just go through and identify which departments are being published in the actual issues, and to determine if individual departments can cover that cost instead of the Redevelopment Commission paying all the costs. That's what we really want to look to determine. Another one is the Utilities Department. So the question is, should the Redevelopment Commission be paying for other departments that have a budget for that purpose? So that would be my recommendation. There's no intent to not be a part of that program in the next year because it's a valuable resource for the Portage residents.
So you're not asking for a motion to
No,
approve it?
nothing today.
Okay.
Just to let you know, we did receive that, and that have discussions with the Redevelopment Commission staff, the mayor, and the other departments to see if they can cover some of those costs in their budgets.
We have promotion budgets in different departments. We also have, well, I can't claim we have lots of money anywhere else. It's just to say that within departments, there are promotion, funds
Right.
available. And so kind of looking at how we want to, do that. I know that with my team, Leanne and Norma, we've discussed, well, and Greg has been part of this too, we've discussed at length the benefit of being featured in that magazine and what a wonderful magazine it's been, for the community. So we see the benefit there.
Right.
It is sometimes a little bit of a challenge, just like any time you've got deadlines from multiple departments to make sure that stuff is in, and we've talked about just being smoother on our end. The mayor's moment, not so bad. I usually have something to write about, or I can just take in Facebook post and turn it into an article from a couple months before. But yeah, I think this is a very good discussion.
Right.
Overall,
Right.
the page we want that your average person will just see as the city pages, but from a
Right.
budget end, how can we best spread that around in a balanced way?
Exactly. So my recommendation would be is to see how we allocate those funds appropriately to the different departments. And any balance remaining, of course, can come from the Redevelopment Commission, because as the mayor stated, it is a benefit for the community. And the information in there is valuable to the community, is an asset, and I'm not exactly sure if the school gets involved in that, but that may be something where the school can even get involved. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at one of the publications.
Yeah, we have a publication that comes out once a year at this point.
Okay.
But my question was going to be, can we request that the RDC the work that the commissioners do, be also included in at least one of the publications, if it's going to be 4 times a year?
Right.
Talk about, the budget and just give examples of how this commission contributes to the community.
I would say first and foremost, yeah. I mean, when you actually think about how much is being done by the RDC, it's probably good to highlight that, making, there's certainly plenty of material. The idea of the RDC having one of the pages in the publication could probably be great, would be great.
And what I would offer to do, Ms. Velazquez, is to work with Sonia, to work with Sandy and the mayor to put together, and Tom, to put together an article of projects that we're working on and programs that we're working on, what we're funding, so that citizens understand what the Redevelopment Commission is involved in.
Dan, do you think it might be good for just like I've got my mayor's moment that's like attributed to the mayor, with some spelling checks and things from my staff. Do you think that featuring you as the main person writing for the RDC?
I'll
might
be
a
very
good
humble
way
and
to
say
go?
no,
Oh,
but
okay.
if you ask me to do that, I'll say yes. But I could do that, yes, that's fine. And it is important that the community understands what the Redevelopment Commission does.
It would probably be too much of an inside joke, Tom, if we titled the feature Notes from Uncle RDC.
I was actually
Notes from,
As catchy as it sounds.
I like that title.
So as I talked to a lot of community members, especially in the past couple of months, when I mention this commission, most individuals are not familiar
Right.
with they know that it exists, but I just think that having more details available for the community would be very helpful.
And we can go through and identify projects that have already been completed, I mean, even if it's under the prior administration, to identify those projects that have made a large impact in the community because of the work of the Redevelopment Commission. Sure, I'd be
guess,
more than happy to do that.
One more thought I
Thank
would
you.
have. I was going to just chip in. I mean, I'm saying it to everybody, but thinking about how now that we're getting set up with the grant for the school system, depending on which program or which piece gets funded via the RDC, that'd be a very neat way to highlight the school system and the RDC together to
Right.
show how the city and the schools are working together. It's an idea.
Exactly. So- Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Again, I always suspect Amanda is watching these meetings, so we'll see. Any other comments on that? If not, Mr. Cherry, we've got you down for emergency tree removal at Founders Square.
I'll make it quick. On July, I believe it was the 15th, we had a pretty good storm rolling through Portage. We lost a lot of trees. Trees were down. One of the trees that came down were on RDC property over at Founders Square. It was a large tree. It was blocking the sidewalk, part of the road. It took out one of the light poles, so there was live electrical. So I had to find somebody quick and was able to get Mike's Tree Service out the next day to handle it. Took them 2 days. And I'm just asking if, consideration to approve that bill for that. Did a good job, did it quickly. So, and I called numerous places and they were the quickest that can get out there. So,
What is the amount of the bill?
3,200. Yeah, it should be in your packet, but, yeah, it was 32. And it was a very large tree. They hauled it away, cut it up, so.
And members of the commission, I would support the use of the funds. It was an emergency situation that needed to be addressed immediately due to the utility lines that were impacted as well as the safety, and it was Redevelopment Commission property, and that the funds be, if approved, be taken from the general fund. General fund of the commission, not of the city, just to be clear.
Thank you for clarifying. I want to get a phone call later.
Before you got that phone call, right?
So I move to approve the $3,200 fee for the tree removal at Founders Square.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have the 2025 spending plan discussion.
Yes, so consistent with Indiana Code, your redevelopment law, IC 36-7-14-12.7, the statute requires that annually prior to December 1st of each year, the Redevelopment Commission prepare and approve a spending plan for the subsequent fiscal year. It is an estimate of the funds to be receipted revenues and an estimate of the expenditures, somewhat of a precursor to your actual budget process, which we'll be meeting on in special session to review. So we'll take the spending plan, we'll discuss it, identify specific spending articles and line items, and then we'll go through and finalize that so that in January, if not January, February, that fiscal year plan can be finalized along with your fiscal year budget for 2025 for not only your general fund, but also the allocation fund. This is specific to allocation, the Portage allocation area. So I have prepared for you a 2-page resolution basically stating why we are doing this through the whereas statements, and then a 4-section now therefore that basically approves and adopts the 2025 spending plan that section number 2 is understanding that the fiscal plan as presented, and I'll go through the exhibit with you, that is an estimate. However, you cannot foresee any future events, variables that may occur during the year, and that if anything should change, that the spending plan will be amended, and those amendments would be updated into the gateway system of the DLGF. Section 3 is Exhibit A, which is your fiscal plan. In some instances, communities have been including it in the resolution. I tend to put it in the exhibit so that next year, when this comes before you, I just need to update the resolution very quickly. And basically, I can keep the exhibit in an Excel spreadsheet, so it'll add up and subtract and divide and do all the mathematics pretty quickly. And Section 4 is that it's in full force and effect, dated today. On the Exhibit A, what I've done for the Redevelopment Commission is identified the revenues, although the revenues isn't really required because it says it's a spending plan. I did feel it was necessary to understand an estimate of the revenues, and how I determined the revenues were based upon the first and second installments that made the second installment that would be received based upon your first installment of Pay 2024. It was about $4.8 million of tax increment revenue distributed. We're going to assume that that would be the same installment for the second distribution next year. That totals out to be about $9.6 million of revenues. Now, because there's other sources of revenues available to the Redevelopment Commission, the estimate was based upon land disposals or sale of property, grants that might be received by the Redevelopment Commission, donations, other revenues, and miscellaneous. That came to about $10,268,000. So that's what we're estimating for next year for the spending plan. And of course, I did receive from Sandy, based upon the special session on the Irving Park Trail, as well as a discussion on other projects that may be considered in the upcoming year as a priority. And I jumped ahead to item number C, but I'll start with item number A, your debt service and obligation payments. Those totaled about $4.4 million. Those are obligations and debt service that are required to be paid. I'll go to number C, capital expenditures. Identified about $4 million of projects next year that may be incurred as approved, if approved by the commission. Let me go back to item number B, which is you passed a resolution for the eligible entities for educational and training grant program. I inserted $250,000 for that line item. That's based upon, as we discussed, the tax increment revenues of about $9.6 million. I didn't include the other costs because in the resolution it does say it's the net available or surplus dollars after all obligations. So if I were to take the $9.6 million and reduce it by $4.3 million for debt service, 4.4 for debt service, and then reduce it by $4 million for the capital projects that you would obligate, that leaves about $1.6 million. If I took 15% of that, it's about $175,000 and $180,000. I then adjusted that up because, in essence, we may not expend $4 million on the projects, and it's an estimate from the standpoint of once we know what that net balance or surplus is after, we'll be able to calculate what that value is. But $250,000 of a grant for educational purposes to an educational institution or training programs should be sufficient for the year. The other, under Section D, any grants or contributions, and it is broken down into local economic development organizations, that's the Portage Economic Development Corporation at $50,000. Other nonprofit organizations, I entered $45,000 for that purpose. Legally permitted costs, loans related to expenses to the police, fire, ambulatory, safety services. I entered $250,000 there, And that is from the perspective of now you can provide those services or that grants for loans or permitted grants and loans for equipment to the public safety service entities. Professional services, $150,000 for contractual issues, and expenditures to related capital operating, fire, police, and ambulatory, $50,000. Now, and I want to go back, the legally permitted grants, that includes the $75,000 for the police, the $75,000 for the fire, $75,000 for the parks, and in essence, that comes up to $225,000. I added $25,000 in the event if anything were to be increased, just in case, as well as if there was another loan or public safety service grant that may be considered by the commission. And to go into detail, any employee training expenses, I entered $25,000 in the event there was a business that requested funds for training, employee training and expenses. And then lastly, under Section O, other anticipated qualified and eligible expenditures, I entered $100,000 as a means of if there were other qualified and eligible expenditures that may be considered by the Redevelopment Commission in the subsequent year. So basic accounting, take your revenues minus your expenditures, you would have a surplus of about $1 million, and that is consistent with policy to have a surplus of $1 to $2 million per year for those unexpected expenses that may occur or for economic development projects. I would ask if there's any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer those. If approved, the resolution would be provided to the clerk treasurer as a treasurer of the Redevelopment Commission, and she will have that uploaded by December 1st to the gateway system. Again, it's an estimate for the expenditures of next year. When we go through the actual budget process after the study session, it may be amended, it may not be amended, but it can also always be amended in the future. It's a dynamic document.
We don't include the carryover balance from year to year in this?
You mean for the police, fire, and park?
No, the budget for the RDC?
I did not include what the carryover was from last year because the way the statute reads, it says the fiscal year spending based upon, what you're going to spend next year. Yeah. That'll get more detailed in the subsequent budget for fiscal year.
Thank you.
So I read it as, I'm not an attorney, but I read it as the statute's only asking for what your expenditures were for fiscal year 2025.
Give them exactly what they're asking.
Gave them exactly what they're asking for, exactly. And I have reviewed other communities' spending plans, and they've treated it the same way. And I did provide it to Attorney Bartnicki to review the resolution if there were any legal issues.
No, I took time over an evening, read through it, provided a couple very minor edits. I will publicly compliment Director Bowditch on his use of citations, spot on, so, for real. I mean, I had absolutely no changes to any of those, so I will state publicly, I legally approve of the resolution that's been offered. So it is good to go from a legal standpoint.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, before our attorney thanked him, I also was going to make that same comment. Thank you for taking the time to explain it to us thoroughly as you did. And of course, on behalf of the schools and the students, thank you for allocating that amount.
Well,
I'm sure that our schools will think about and with due diligence, we'll make sure that our students benefit from this amount.
and I don't want to take credit for it. You are the Redevelopment Commission. You make that choice. I just facilitate your decisions. That's all. But thank you all for taking that consideration and authorizing me to put together the grant program. That's all. Yeah. I'm here to help out the commission and the community in whole.
So just to clarify, we are in a position to approve tonight?
Sure.
Would anybody be inclined to make that motion?
I make the motion to approve resolution number 24-03.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I know that we might have other business to come. I was just wondering if our friends at American Structure Point, would you guys like to just give an update? I know we ran into each other yesterday, and it's always exciting to run into you.
Thank you, Mayor.
If it wasn't an event we were both scheduled to be at, but still, I mean, it was great to see you, and I was excited about the opportunity to give this update.
And I did have a conversation yesterday, and Structure Point did ask if they can give a brief overview and update on the Central Avenue Bridge. So I was going to mention that under other business, but Mayor, you took it, so have at it.
I apologize, Dan.
No,
I was
no,
a little too
you're okay.
excited from
Nope, yep, exactly.
so many things. I think I'm like the guy like calling shots, but really, Dan the man's got it covered behind the scenes.
Dan the man, you're right.
Thank you, Mayor, Dan, and Commission. We do want to give an update on the Central Avenue Bridge project. So we have been starting work since mid-October. We're completed with the timber piles on the east side of the bridge. So they have driven 167 timber piles. We have moved the crane over and will begin on the west side. I am happy to report that we are a week and a half ahead of schedule at this time, and that they will be driving those piles. I have another 150 piles to drive on the west side, and if we stay ahead of schedule, we'll be getting into the concrete caps ahead of, we'll be trending on the right direction of weather and everything like that, and start into that prior to Christmas instead of after Christmas. So that's the quick update, ahead of schedule, halfway through on the timber piles itself, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer as well.
I think at this time we just appreciate the progress. It's exciting to see. I know that people were excited this morning when Stone opened up. That's not all you get, but people were excited about that. I think that the more progress we get on Central, the more exciting it's going to continue to be.
And I did want to mention that in many instances, you know, I teach in my classes on budgeting and strategic planning that results come in three forms: positive, neutral, and negative. And in many instances, we've been neutral or negative on this project in moving forward. And I wanted the commission to hear positive information that since your last meeting in October, when we talked about this project and the pilings and the tests, that it is now a week and a half ahead of schedule. So I wanted you to hear that it is moving forward.
Yes,
And people can see progress happening. So,
Great.
That's
thank you
excellent.
very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion to come before the board? Oh, Mr. Cherry. We were so close to having a 35-minute meeting.
This was a late entry. I found out, I think it was this week. Apparently, every year RDC pays for the lift rental for the Christmas tree for 2 days. They've been doing this consistently every year. Terry Ellis came to me with this. It's 2 days of rental for a scissor lift and drop-off pickup fees. It's not going to exceed $1,500, so I would ask, approval for this year again, not to exceed $1,500.
I'm sure that Terry's not pulling a fast one on you, but just in case, we've got two members from last year's Redevelopment Commission. Do you guys remember doing this in the past? No, I meant that as a joke, so for the record, I still don't think he's pulling a fast one on us.
Is this a new way to slip something in? Hey, you did it every year.
Why, the RTC always did that before. It could very well be that maybe it was covered as a...
Sonia, can you answer that, or?
I want to apologize to Terry and to Tom. I
had
was
to
just
take
trying
it.
to be a little lighthearted there, but no.
I took him at his word, and
I'm sure he's telling the truth, or at least he's going the truth by what's been told.
And
Maybe it was put into a claim or something, like maybe it wasn't
Yeah, it
as
could have been
obvious.
after the fact or
Yeah.
something.
yeah, it could be. I'm just I want to let you know, and he's gotten a couple quotes, and we're going to go with the lowest, so.
Mr. Bowditch, would that be consistent with our ability as far as, like rules about, allocation
Where's
versus
the-
general funds?
Where's the tree placed? Just,
It's,
Well, it would be a downtown, oh, that's fair, it's down, By the police department.
Yeah,
Okay.
right
So
next
it is
door.
within the allocation area.
Right,
If that's
so-
all we,
Yeah,
And I would recommend that the funding come from the general fund for economic development, redevelopment, economic purposes. It's going to bring people to downtown.
oh, it's a big event. There'll be
Right.
people there, there's all sorts of, different vendors and organizations, so it's certainly going to bring people
The general
in.
fund can handle it.
Gotcha.
$1,500.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Does anybody want a motion to buy like a I'm sorry card to Terry? I'll just take care of that myself.
I'll write the thank you card.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I'll write the card.
All right. Any other discussion? And if not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you,